So this topic of Dakini, wisdom of devastation, it's very much ironical title. Question of how can we work with the extreme moments in life, such as right now, usually reluctant, or usually don't want to deal with, or usually we reject, or usually we approaching with fear. So how can we work with that? That's the kind of question, inquiry. Then Dakinis come in here. Dakini is a bridge from devastation, if I use this term, to wisdom of emptiness. Dakini expresses and point out to us the wisdom of emptiness. So each of you have your Dakini moment. I trust that. Perhaps this might be your Dakini moment, or Dakini might have brought you here. Dakini is not necessarily in the form. There is formless Dakini, deepest dimension of Dakinis. So Dakini refers to our own realization of emptiness, opening up our own gate of wisdom in which we experience emptiness. So not necessarily Dakini, these female figures in a certain forms. That's one expression of Dakini, but there are many forms. One of the real meanings of Dakini is one's own experience of, you can say, emptiness or wisdom, and seeing, understanding, and experiencing that truth. Then Dakini become an aid or support or bridge for us to experience that itself, experience that opening, that wisdom. Then practices and rituals associated to Dakinis, many of you might be practicing, help us to open, to realize that emptiness. Then how Dakinis helps us, or how Dakini teaches us that emptiness is through this wisdom of devastation. In the sense of expressing this complete hopelessness or despair. Many of us feel right now, uncertainty and fear, all those things are included. But the thing is a genuine hopelessness leads to the actually fearlessness. That's kind of a connotation this word devastation has. Dakini teaches emptiness through this kind of occasion, or between the things, between day and night, or gap between the arising and the deceasing. For example, between the life and death, or the transition in our lives. And also at our lowest, at our darkest, at our weakest, and at our saddest, we meet Dakini, who point us to that reality. So that's called Dakini's blessing, gift of Dakini, a blessing of Dakini. We may not have noticed that, but just take a moment to think about that in your life journey, that sort of moment, or even in your practice, when practitioner reach the bottom of bottom, so to speak, then Dakinis come. That's historically described. Certain calamity or certain disaster is also Dakini's intervention, Dakini's blessing, and the opportunity for discovery of wisdom within. Then Charnel ground is the home of Dakinis. Why? Start with Trungpa Rinpoche's quote. Without relating with this basic Charnel ground, there is no other way. You might ask, isn't there a cleaner, more respectable place you can build? Doesn't seem to be. So channel ground is very important, not only concept, but important experience we need to go through. Maybe that might have brought you here. How we can make use of this Dakini's wisdom in the place feel like a channel ground of devastation. So channel ground is not a cemetery. Channel ground is a place where body is abandoned, left for decomposition. So death is completely exposed, place where there is no disguise, no hiding, completely naked. In that sense, all the blind spots are radically exposed, and also a symbol for everything which is impure, disgusting, and terrifying, because all the prey of the animals come and eat. Very dangerous place. You wouldn't want to go, especially at night. And also place or symbol for everything we reject, everything we don't want. Completely opposite to what we want. So that now I want you to do a brief contemplation. I invite you to go and look at your own life right now, situation. So start out with COVID, this health concern. So death is very close, illness at least, vulnerabilities of our own health feels like a channel ground. Just take a moment to connect and be present with that, whatever comes up, instead of distract yourself from that feeling or sense. And this contemplation, I want you to use your body, felt to sense way. Maybe your immediate family may not be affected by COVID, but every day in the US, at least 1,000 is dying due to this. Right now, like 214,000 or something people died due to this disease, and more to come. How does that feel? Then how about the social injustice or racism, prejudice against a certain kind of group due to the difference in, even difference in the color of skin? See if we can internalize that prejudice in you. This dilemma we are facing, it's your dilemma, it's our dilemma. See if we can see our own prejudice, this struggle. How does that feel? Feel like a channel ground, fighting, police, homicide, violent. We carry this violent history in our body as well. How about the global ecological crisis? Fire, recent fire. In this Oregon, my cabin was very close to fire. All the planets and the elements, upheavals, hurricanes, tsunami, earthquake. What's your involvement in that, in you? We've been taking, only taking. We are not giving back enough to the earth, for example. These 5 elements, for example, imbalance. How about in your body, 5 elements? You live in that, you're made of that 5 element system, body, mind system, imbalance, elemental upheavals we are experiencing right now. You like a channel ground? And what else? Political polarities. Even you may not be involved, we are quite affected. Our blind spots are really radically expose symptoms which we are trying to hide appeared and actually telling us something. Then this Buddhist tradition of Dakini teaching, the way the channel ground is transformed or changed in practice. Then channel ground become a symbol of wisdom, wisdom that coming from relating to the channel ground, or part of us which we didn't want to relate. When I invited to connect your own channel ground, were you able to do that? What's your reactivities or whatever, without any judgment? So in this Dakini Whisper community, we have these containers where this difficult part of us can be nurtured or can be shared without any judgment. It's more like exploration as a part of a journey.
Angela, I saw it as I've almost had a sense of that's a bad way to put it, excitement. As like it's like offering us a challenge to actually sharpen our practice, like with parameters, with compassion, with love, not to sort of be. It's good to be sad and with all the devastation and to be horrified, but I don't think it'll do ourselves or other people or other beings any good if we succumb to depression and a sense of hopelessness and despair, because then that would be totally sort of devastating in all senses of the word. So it's more of like sort of arousing to practice and to sort of live more fully. I'm trying to think of what I've taken for granted so much in all these years. It's sort of encouraging to sort of develop certain qualities which are not dependent on external circumstances.
So somehow this topic brought you here, or the kind of drawn by this kind of subject. So you have some different view as a practitioner, as well as living life. So you can say relative and ultimate point of view. As a practitioner, our goal or our encouragement is how we can hold both ultimate and relative reality. You can say genuine reality and apparent reality. Then this Dakini teaching point out the genuine reality while we are experiencing the relative reality. Dakini teaching doesn't tell us to not to grieve, actually, grieve completely. I just wanted to clarify. I'm not inviting you to be heartless. So compassion and emptiness, union of those two.
I'm realizing my charnel ground is the fear of impermanence, and it's really coming up big in me. I want to find the place in me that is real, because that's all we got to hang on to anyway, that we can depend on. So I think it's really calling me, even if it's just a scare, just to go deeper and find that place within us that is really, really true.
See, this contemplation of impermanence and our own mortality is a foundational teaching, no? The Shakyamuni Buddha. Buddha was already teaching the channel ground in his first teaching. The first noble truth, what is that? There is a suffering, recognize it. So that's the first noble truth, right? Already there in the foundational teachings. Doesn't look at only Vajrayana. So already from the beginning. See, when Buddha put the begging bowl on the flowing river, then what begging bowl did? It's against the stream. His teaching was against the stream, against our normal habitual patterns of whatever, or this illusionary created our own system. So it's against that norm, unconventional teaching. That's channel ground teaching. Of course, Dakini teaching is one step further than that, but I think this is a good opportunity to go back to his first teaching, already expresses there.
Just now during this contemplation, the first thing is going to the charnel ground, just being willing to go there. And so we went there and feeling, as you described the various phenomena that are happening now in our world, and allowing the feelings of, anger and frustration and fear, sadness to rise up. What the hardest part for me was staying there and not creating a story around it that fit in my frame of reference of thinking, but just to kind of let it stay there. And what I felt was a lot of tenderness that didn't really have a reference point, just this tenderness. And then I felt very alive, just very alive in a hopeful kind of a way.
Interesting. I'm sure many of you have experienced loss in life or disillusionment or devastating disappointment, betrayal, or life brought up in some way, or internal collapse. At the moment, something just shifts now. If you stay very raw, like naked, so Dakini is naked without putting anything story around it. Naked, raw, stay in that energy, completely exposed, then what happens? Dakini's intervention. You can meet Dakini there. That's called the gift of Dakini, opportunity to change our relationship with that sort of situations. Trungpa Rinpoche called the samsaric administration collapse. That's what we want to know, actually. We are all here, most of us here, to go beyond or wake up from the dream of samsaric administration and wake up into who and what we truly are, so that we can live fully each moment with love, complete open-heartedness. So you can begin to walk with the situation in a different way, not normal, not so conventional way. In the Tibetan Vajrayana context, now the channeled ground became a symbol of wisdom and a place where all hopes are gone, because hopes and fear, two sides of the same coin. No? We work with true practice, right? Therefore, all fears are gone as well. So fearless. Do you have that sort of moment? You are able to let go of hope? Then you feel like no fear. And also a place where the extreme of conventional lives are exhausted, cannot follow anymore this kind of conventional way of living, automatic kind of living. Actually, all of you here showed up. This is the expression of unconventional approach. Nobody wants to look into this kind of wisdom. They want to get back to this previous old habitual patterns as soon as possible. We don't want to go back to the old habit. This is the opportunity to really take a moment to pause and look at these areas. And also those yogis and yoginis in the channel ground, in the Tibetan Buddhism, it's a place of tremendous beauty and simplicity and peace. That's how they consider channel ground. See if we can start to have this appreciation for this kind of opportunity we are currently have, facing the channel ground, so to speak. Why peaceful? For example, nobody came to bother them because they're so fearless. Animals or unseen being, spirit, hanging around the channel ground, even they didn't bother them because they become very fearless. Then they took the bones from the channel ground, whatever left, they made it transform into a beautiful ornament. That's the sign that embraces everything that the channel ground represent for their society. So they embrace everything. For example, society thrown away, or everything one throw away, or one reject. So hopeless, therefore fearless, tremendous confidence and clarity, and live with wisdom. We want to live like that, no? So then Dakinis become messengers, teachers and protectors for genuine practitioners, wherever they are found. They help you, they assist you, they intervene, especially at the time of the lowest of lowest. Do you have that sort of moment, Dakini moment, when you completely come to this point where no more hope? No. So Charnel ground teaching is the core of all the Buddhist teaching, right? Buddha taught Charnel ground, and view of emptiness, genuine Buddhist wisdom, Buddhist teaching to begin to embrace whatever everyone else rejects. So that's what the Buddha also did, no? In his first teaching, and then second turning of the wheel, second teaching, this wisdom teaching, emptiness teaching, he did that. This Dakini teaching is based on the second turning of the wheel, emptiness, wisdom teachings. Since this is part of the Dakini teaching, so I want to show you the one picture, mandala. This is the Vajrayogini mandala. So this is the Charnel ground, this circle. So this one is so-called famous 8 Charnel ground. Each Charnel ground all has a commonalities, which I talked about, certain things, like each Charnel ground has a tree and one meditator, yogi, and also some animals, also those sort of things. But anyway, if you look at this one, this is the wisdom fire. So that's kind of protect from the interference coming from the outside. Charnel ground was inside her protection circle, inside the mandala. So this is the uniqueness. This is the Charnel ground. Then this is the Vajra fence, protecting from interference from outside. But inside that, Vajrayogini teaching, embracing the Charnel ground, close relationship to Charnel ground, which represent everything conventionally we reject, are embraced here in this teaching, Dakini teaching. So this itself says something about that, no? Charnel ground, we talked about place where we can relax. Things are so bad that we could relax. Do you have that sort of experience? Things are complete disaster. Then we can relax into the ultimate nature of things, kind of jumping off the cliff or something like that. So the important thing about the first teaching, first noble truth, and then coming to this Dakini teaching goes one step further or more directly deal with the Charnel ground. So Charnel ground signifies a part of us we normally reject or exclude or bypass. So again, take a moment to see if we can connect. Then we can hear that Dakini's teaching to relate to that Charnel ground, your own Charnel ground or not.